All right. I think we should give it a couple of minutes because I'm guessing you guys aren't the only ones that had trouble logging in, Mary Jo. So maybe we'll just delay by a couple of minutes. People can re-click the link. It's possible it was wrong or something was going weird with our website. Things happen.
Okay, yeah, I was just texting Jarrett because he was having trouble too. So
Perfect. Well,
we're on our way.
it should be like a repeating event, so it's weird that it gave you a schedule for February 11th note for it.
Yeah.
So, because it's supposed to be the same link all the time. So we'll see.
Oh, technology.
Yeah, and I am cursed with it, so it's.
Oh, no. Okay, Jarrett is still getting, oh wait, no, I think he's on the right track. He's getting the wait for host message. It doesn't sound like he's getting the February message.
Okay. Because it should give me a notification then. Let me see. It's not saying there's anyone in any of my waiting rooms. So
Okay, I'm going to tell him to back out and try again from square one.
Okay, it might have been because I hadn't opened up I just opened up all the settings, so there might have been something weird with that gave us trouble. But we'll see.
I just got a text from Jarrett saying he's in.
Okay.
I can see Jarrett. Hi, Jarrett.
Oh,
Hi.
perfect.
Oh, hey, Jarrett. Great.
All right, I think Jarrett, we're gonna wait a couple of minutes to start just because I think you probably weren't the only one having technical problems getting in. It seems like there was something weird with the link. And so
Okay.
we'll just give it a couple of minutes and maybe get started in like 3 or 4 minutes instead of right on time. So just take a deep breath. We'll hopefully get here.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to try and let my dog out. He keeps standing by the door, but he won't go out. So if you'll just give me 1 minute.
And Jarrett, or which one was the one? Was it Cow or Jarrett who needed the screen sharing capabilities for it?
Jarrett.
That's
Jarrett.
me, yeah.
I'll make you a co-host so you could do that really quick
Oh, great.
while we're sitting here.
Do you need to go out?
All right. And if you want to test it and just do a quick like blip on or something, that's fine. Or if you want to wait until the moment of, that's okay too. But you should be good to go with co-hosting and screen sharing abilities now.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I think we'll just do this. So that should.
Perfect. Yep, it started.
Cool. Let's stop for right now. Cool. Well, this is exciting.
It is, yeah. This is our second one we're having, so you're still kind of guinea pigs. I apologize, but it went smoothly last time, so hopefully it'll go okay this time. All right, I think I'll go through my intro really quick, and then by that time, hopefully we'll be at almost 10 minutes late. So theoretically, people will have joined by then.
Okay.
And I apologize if my dogs go crazy in the background while I'm talking. There's a party happening next door, and they've been insane because they keep walking out of the house.
Oh no.
So, I apologize. But my name is Abby Cosberg, and I'm the director of the Banfield Locke Center for the Arts. And this is our reading series, but it's our new virtual version of that. And we're super excited to be able to start that up now after in this year. And so for those of you who have never been to a reading series, we hire a curator each year, which this year it's Mary Jo Peel. And that curator then invites 2 authors from anywhere they want. Now we've been opened up to the anywhere we want because of Zoom capabilities for it, to come in and do a short reading for us. And then we have a small question and Q&A answer thing at the end. And it's been a program that's been happening for almost 25 years at Banfield. It's been great. We've had great success with it, and we're really excited that we're able to continue it, even though we're in kind of crazy, unprecedented times right now. And so I'll go through a couple little Zoom etiquette things that may make life easier for some of you, especially if you haven't done anything on Zoom before. I will ask that everyone stay muted except for the speakers. Zoom is a 1 audio channel type system. So if you talk while speakers talking, you'll cancel them out and nobody else gets to hear them. So please stay muted. If you have a question or something weird's happening, please put it in the chat during the talk, and I'll help moderate and figure out what's going on if something weird's happening for it. Each speaker will talk for about 20 to 30 minutes. It depends on what they're reading, what they're doing. And then we'll have both the speakers go, then we'll have a general Q&A at the end. You can ask questions, which will be moderated by Mary Jo. You can ask questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can do a couple of things to make it so it flows kind of seamlessly. I will ask that it's awkward on Zoom. Sometimes you end up speaking over someone you don't mean to. If that's okay, we'll acknowledge that, move forward. But there's a couple of things that can make it easier, such as using the reactions function to raise your hand, kind of saying a word quickly, like asking to jump in and then jumping in. Don't just jump in with your question, or just putting it in the chat if you're worried about that. It's a really easy thing to do. And then lastly, if you're like me and you get really overwhelmed by having a million little squares on your screen, I would highly recommend going into the speaker view at the top right corner of the Zoom. And so that'll highlight whoever's talking and give them a bigger face, and it'll get rid of all the little small faces around, and that can make it a lot easier to focus on what's happening throughout the talks. And if you're struggling to mute and don't know how or anything, I'm going to mute everyone except for the speakers right before. So just leave it as it is. And if you need to ask a question, either put it in the chat or I can help you unmute, whatever you need to do for it. We can make it work. And with that, I will pass it over to Mary Jo.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks everybody for joining us. And I am so excited about tonight's readers. We have Jarrett Melendez and Kalia Yang. And I will start with Jarrett. I'll get Jarrett to get the ball rolling. Jarrett Melendez is a Boston-based food and comic book writer. A former professional cook, he is a regular contributor to Food 52 and Bon Appetit. His comic book credits include contributions to Full Bleed, All We Ever Wanted, Sergeant Werewolf, and Murder Hobo. And Jarrett is currently working on a comic-style illustrated cookbook called The Comic Kitchen. He is the writer and co-creator of Chef's Kiss, a queer romance coming from Ani Press in 2022. Jarrett, take it away.
Okay. Thanks for the intro. I will go ahead and share my screen here and get right to it. I'll be reading from my graphic novel, Chef's Kiss. So you're going to be seeing all of the pages and panels, and I'll be reading the dialogue from it, which will be fun and exciting, hopefully. Okay. 4 years of college move-in days, you'd think I'd seen everything. But right now, there are 3 moving trucks triple parked in front of our building, blocking traffic. It's like a dang IKEA warehouse got airdropped onto our street. And did you see how many people were just openly weeping? Oh, crying is the free space on move-in day bingo. Dude, people need to minimize. Bed, desk, bong, hoodie, computer, smartphone. It's all you need. These boxes here are character names. So from left to right, we have Ben Cook, who's the main character, his best friend, Liz Brooks, followed by Rachel DeFilippo, and then one of my favorite characters, Tom Williams. Is that the last of your stuff? Do you want me to grab? Whoa. Is that all books? Huh? Yes, this is the last. And yeah, these are some of my books. Some? Come to think of it, yeah, I feel like I've seen you with this same load of boxes at least twice. But definitely more than twice, right? Like, we're already half unpacked and you're just bringing in the last load. I was an English major. Read books and write papers. That's basically all I did in college. Even if you kept all of your books, which I know you didn't, that would account for maybe, what, 2, 3 boxes? Just how many books do you have, Ben? Well, what do you, hey, stay out of my room. Whoa. Ben, you know you can fit these thousands of pounds of books onto a tablet that weighs less than a pound, right? Yes, Tom, I'm aware of tablets. I have one. And yes, before you ask, all the books in this room are on it. I shouldn't be so surprised. Ben's always been a bookworm, but I had no idea it was this bad. Hey! His mom always says that before we met in 3rd grade, his only friends were hobbits, elves, talking lions, and hey, do you guys want to see Liz's collection of porcelain clown dolls? Porcelain what now? All right, that's enough about collections. We should really unpack and get settled in so we can relax and talk about literally anything else. Sound good? Great. All right, nerds. There's lots to do, but I bet if we put our minds to it, we could get this all done and wrapped up in 2 pages or less. Let's go. Super roommate mode, activate. Order. Illuminate. Stack. Install. Display. Approve. Feng shui. Puff. Spray. Decork. Pay. Pizza. Wow, that was amazing. Let's have a toast to Liz and Tom's new jobs, to Rachel's continuing education, and to new beginnings. To new beginnings. Monday. Hey, are you heading out soon? Our offices are near each other, so I thought we'd walk together. Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Our beta test launched last week, so I'm kind of jazzed to go in and see the feedback. And this is the thing that sends birthday reminders or something, right? Oh, even better. People always post memes on their friends' social media accounts for their birthdays, right? But that takes time, plus you have to remember to actually do it. Uh-huh. Basically, the app automatically sends a birthday text to people in your contact list on their birthday using internet memes based on their interests. That's really cool. It makes you seem thoughtful with basically no effort. Oh, I'd use that. I'm always forgetting. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, flipping flip. Beta testers reported that the app sent their friends pics of ladies sitting on birthday cakes. I gotta run. Sorry. Yikes. Good luck. Well, that's awkward. Maybe they should call the app Flappy Birthday? Sloppy Butt Day. Ha! I'm off to class. First day, and we're starting with Shakespeare, apparently. Ah, then fare thee well, gentle madam. Good morrow to you. Such a nerd. Bye. I should probably get going, too. Interviews today? Yeah, a couple. Then a bunch more throughout the week. I hope I get something soon. Moving made a real dent in my graduation money. Once that's gone, I'm on my own. Wee adulthood. I'm sure you'll be fine. fresh out of school and eager to work, who wouldn't hire you? Just remember, if the interview starts to go south, just picture them naked. Gross, Liz. Oh, unless it's a hot guy, that'll make things worse. Then, I don't know, picture him in a bee costume. Good luck. So mature. Bye. Mr. Cook, Miss Collins will see you now. Oh, I see you've just graduated. Congratulations. And you want to be a proofreader with us? Oh, thank you. Yes, I do. And why do you think you'd be a good fit here? Well, I've always read since I was little. I was editor of the school paper in high school and college, so I'm used to proofreading. I love to read, and getting paid to do it would be amazing. I see. School paper, but no professional experience? Well, no, I just finished school, but thanks, we'll let you know. Oh, is that, are we done? I brought samples of the papers I work. Yes, that's fine. Leave them with my assistant. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your time. Tuesday. And do you have any professional experience in journalism? No, but I've written dozens of, thanks, we'll let you know. Wednesday. Any professional experience in copywriting? Not professional, no, but thank you for coming in. We'll be in touch. Thursday. I'm not seeing professional blogging experience on your resume. I don't have any. I see. Well, we have some more interviews scheduled. We'll keep you posted. Friday. How many social media accounts have you managed professionally? None. Oh, sorry. We're only considering candidates with at least 3 years of professional experience. Come back then, okay? Yeah, right. Whoa, what's going on? This book is a crock. If it were written today, there'd be a scene where Merlin goes, I see you pulled Excalibur from the stone, but do you have any professional experience as a prophesized king? Nothing from any of your interviews? Nope, not a peep. How are you supposed to get experience when nobody will hire you unless you have experience? A pox on them. A what now? It's Shakespeare for screw 'em. Oh, okay. Look, buck up, mister. Just be charming and stay positive. Nobody ever got hired by frowning really hard. You're right. I know. All right, I just need to psych myself up. Smile, be positive, get hired. I can totally do this. Look out, world. Huzzah. 2 weeks later. Hello? Anybody home? Something smells amazing. Oh, hey, cooking, huh? You only cook like this when you're stressed out or trying to seduce a guy, and unless you just met someone in the last 8 hours, it's not a guy. Well, if it's not a guy, I take it you haven't heard from any of your interviews? 17. What? 17 interviews in 3 weeks and not a single callback. I'm a failure. You're not a failure. Really? Because if I don't get a job soon, I'm going to have to move in with my parents and get a job at McGreasy's and pray I make assistant manager by 30, and that sure sounds like failure to me. You are not a failure. Well, then why won't anyone hire me? I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Study, get good grades, do extracurriculars, and for what? I don't have a good answer for you. Well, then maybe real life isn't about doing what you're supposed to do. What do you mean? I mean, maybe I just set my sights too high. Maybe I just need to take whatever job I can get. And give up on writing? No, nothing like that. Just take a garbage job for now, but keep looking. At least money would be coming in. Are you sure about this? Your parents would not like that plan. Oh, no, not at all, which is why I'm not going to tell them. Oh my, Ben Cook going off script and keeping secrets? What will the neighbors say? They'd say he reads, cooks, and has a devil-may-care attitude. How is he still single? You're an idiot. So, what's this job prospect? Let's just see if I get it. I think I will, but I don't want to jinx anything. Fine, fine. But plate that up. My silence isn't free. Deal. And I was the editor of the school paper in high school and college. Wow, that's very impressive. Now, tell me, do you have any professional experience as a garbage collector? Well, wait, excuse me? Experience. Any prior experience collecting trash, refuse, garbage, son? I I know what garbage is. I just poof, you're blowing it. Quick, picture him naked. Like what you see. Gah! What? Did you see a rat? Don't worry, you get used to those. No, sorry, I just don't have prior experience. Sorry. Ah, too bad, kid. We really need someone with experience. Thanks for coming in. Oh man, brain bleach. Need to erase that thought. Oh, oh no. What am I gonna do? The best laid schemes of mice and men. Shit. I have to call my parents. Ugh, voicemail. Hey, Mom, it's me. I just had the worst interview. Um, so, listen, this is kind of hard to say, but so I was thinking, would it be the worst if, wait, no experience necessary? Oh, Mom, sorry, everything's fine. I'll call you back. Bye. Hey, they're hiring. Oh, you don't want to work here. They're only hiring because the last guy froze to death in the walk-in cooler. Oh, gnarly. Thanks for the heads up, dude. We'll just hide this for now, and this is our little secret sign. Hi, welcome. Can I help you? Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Hi. What can I do for you? Hi. Smooth idiot. Quick, bee costume this hottie. Cute. Not a sexy bee, dummy. Abort. Abort. Cute. Cute. Are you okay, sir? Cute. The help wanted sign. It's cute. I saw it. The sign. I saw the sign, and it is cute. Oh, those. Yeah, they're kind of hard to miss. Huh? I only saw the one. Oh, yeah. Chef Davis can be a little much. Chef Davis? He's the owner here. I'm his sous chef, Liam, by the way. Were you interested in the assistant position? Ben. And yes, very much. Great. Did you bring your resume? I did. Prepared. Great. Well, you're already off to a good start. Let's see who you are. Ben Cook? Seriously? That's me, Cook the writer. Well, this all looks great, so tell me more about yourself. Seems like you read a lot, so what are your top 5 favorite books? Oh, easy. In no particular order, 1984, Brave New World, The Giver, Walden, and I know this is 3 books, but the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Huh, interesting. Sounds like you're a dystopian literature fan? Oh yeah, I can't get enough. That and fantasy are my favorite genres. Well, all right, great. So, Cook, the reader and writer, why do you want to work here? And why should I hire you? Honestly, I really need a job. I'm a hard worker. I don't mind long hours or working weekends. I'm great as part of a team and I work well under pressure. Well, that's good. I like an honest answer. Way better than the people who apply just for the free food. Does that really happen? Oh, all the time. It's the worst. So, do you have any experience with vegetarian cooking? Experience? But the sign said, it's okay if you don't. We just need to know for the practical exam part of the interview. Oh, well, I cook at home a lot, but no professional experience and hardly ever vegetarian. Wait, practical exam? Perfect. We'll put works well under pressure to the test. You're gonna cook for me. But I only cook for guys I want to. Yes, that sounds great. All right, we have recipes you can use, or you can work from memory if you have something you love to cook. Totally up to you. I can make it from memory, I guess. Great. Let's get you changed. You're about my size, so you can just borrow one of my chef's jackets. Changed? Oh, all right. How do I look? Great. It really suits you. Really? Yeah, you already look the part. Put your stuff in a locker and follow me. Let's see what you can cook. Oh, okay. Thanks. You can work at this station for today. Here are all the basic tools, but if you need anything special, just ask. Wow, this kitchen is beautiful. I've never been in a professional kitchen before. Yeah, we have great equipment. Chef Davis is really particular. You're welcome to use anything we have in the cooler and pantry. Any idea what you're going to make? Starter, main, dessert? How much time do I get? I'd like to do a roasted squash soup since it's fall. Plus, it's one of the few strictly vegetarian dishes I know how to do. Ooh, seasonal dish? Bonus points. Think you can do it in 2 hours? Definitely. Good answer. All right, gather what you need, get familiar with the kitchen, and I'll start the timer when you're ready. Sound good? Sounds great. All right, this is everything. Oven's preheating. I think I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. Great, timer's going. Good luck. What are you brushing on there? Maple syrup. It helps the squash crisp and brown a little faster. I love how it tastes. See some wordless panels here, counting down the clock, making some soup. Just a little drizzle of this sagey brown butter, and it's done. Wow, with quite a few minutes to spare too. I have to say, I'm very impressed. Really? Absolutely. You showed some innovation with a basic recipe and used techniques I wouldn't have expected from, no offense, an amateur. I'm genuinely excited to taste this. How is it? Ooh, a little thyme in the brown butter too? Yeah, it cooks so long in the soup that you lose it a little bit. So I put a little more in the butter for an extra layer. That explains that herby start. And the maple syrup does speed up the caramelization. It's sweet, salty, and that freshness from the herb really brightens it up. This is a great bowl of soup. Great? Does that mean? Perfect timing, chef. Good news. We can finally take down all those signs. Meet our new hire. Not so fast, Liam. You know better than to hire someone without approval from the official Cochon d'Oreille taste tester. I trust you don't think your palate is more refined? Well, of course not, chef, but I have a hard time believing that this soup wouldn't pass. He has a great sense for flavor, and that is not for you to decide. I'd be honored for you to taste charming. I appreciate the thought, but I'm not the taster. Person, what do I call you? Ben, sir. Well, come along, Bart. I'll introduce you to the taster, and don't get your hopes up. He's a tough critic. Bart? He means you. Just go with it. This way, Liam, you may as well come too. Let's see if your little assessment was premature. Allow me to present the Cochon d'Oreille taste tester and head of quality control, Watson. Oink. And that is the first chapter of Chef's Kiss.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay around for the Q&A. Don't forget.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in it.
We're gonna grill you, so to speak.
Oh boy.
Is Kyle here? I don't see her on my screen. I know she's here. I just want
I'm here. I'm here. I'm
Hello.
ready to go, Mary Jo.
How are you?
Good. That was lovely, Jarrett. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited you're here, Kao, and I'd just like to read your introduction so you can get going with your reading straight away. Kalia Yang is an award-winning Hmong American writer. She's the author of, excuse me, the memoirs The Late Homecomer, A Hmong Family Memoir, The Song Poet, and Somewhere in the Unknown World. Yang is also the author of children's books, A Map into the World, The Shared Room, and The Most Beautiful Thing. You've co-edited the groundbreaking collection, What God is Honored Here, Writings on Miscarriage and Infant Loss by and for Indigenous women and women of color. And Yang's work has been recognized by the NEA, the National Book Critics Circle Award, the Chautauqua Prize, the Penn USA Literary Awards, and the Dayton's Literary Peace Prize. She has garnered 4 Minnesota Book Awards and has been nominated for a 5th just recently. And your children's books are A Map into the World, The Shared Room, and The Most Beautiful Thing. Your work for children has been recognized by the American Library Association, a Zolotol Honor, a Kirkus Best Book of the Year, and you've won the Heartland Booksellers Award. Kalia Yang is a recipient of the McKnight Fellowship in Prose, the International Institute of Minnesota's Olga Zoltai Award for her community leadership and service to New Americans, and the Ordway Center for the Performing Arts 2019 Sally Award for Social Impact. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. The last time I was there in person, so this is an experience. Thank you all for joining Jarrett and me and all of us in celebrating literature. I'm going to read from Somewhere in the Unknown World. This book came out in November, so it's a new book. It is a collective memoir, so a bit of an oxymoron. And it's a finalist for the Minnesota Book Award. This year, I'm actually a double finalist for this and also children's literature. So we'll see how we do on November 29th. The book, this is a dedication. For the refugees from everywhere, men, women, and children, whose fates have been held by the interests of nations, whose rights have been contested and denied, whose thirst and hunger go unheeded and unseen. It begins with a poem by my favorite American poet, the great Lucille Clifton. Quoting, somewhere in the unknown world, a yellow-eyed woman sits with her daughter, quilting. Some otherwhere alchemists mumble over pots. Their chemistry stirs into science, their science freezes into stone. In the unknown world, the woman threading together her need and her needle nods toward the smiling girl. Remember, this will keep us warm. How does this poem end? Do the daughters quilt? Do the alchemists practice their tables? Do the worlds continue spinning away from each other forever? Many people don't know this, but Minnesota has more refugees per capita than any other state in the nation. While we're not part of many conversations in immigration or refugees in particular, because of our tremendous refugee population, I wanted to write a book, a collective memoir of 15 different refugee stories. Today, I'm going to read from Leaving with No Goodbye, a story of Kaw, a man from Burma who is ethnic Karen. My story begins in a small Karen village in Burma, where the chickens peck the ground and the canopies of tall trees provide shelter from the rain. At the beginning of the story, there is a man, a spoiled man, the youngest son of a family of girls. And then there's a woman, a competent, headstrong woman, the oldest of 6 children. There is no love story, but they marry, they become parents, my parents. In my time with my mother and father, they never talked of love as a feeling between people, a shared affection, attraction, a belief, a bond, a relationship that even death could not sever. They only talked of love in terms of country, a country we did not have as Karen people, one of the 7 main ethnic minority groups in Burma. In a life where love was not a language for each other, my mother and father raised 5 children. I was their middle child, their most stubborn and independent child, the one who questioned everything, sometimes with, but more often without, words. When my father told me it was time for me to become a monk for a season, as good Buddhist men do for the merit of their parents, I gave him a look. It was a formidable look, with my slanted brows, my eyes dark as black fire. My rebellious heart, like their feelings for us, needed no words to be understood. He knew that I complied with his requests only for him and mother, not for myself. When my older sister drowned in a nameless river in a nameless place on a day that I would forget if I could, I experienced death for the first time. To leave with no goodbyes. On the day that she died, I saw my mother and father cry until they had no more tears. They cried until they were dry. They cried until the words of love they had not expressed choked them. I saw what happened after a person died. Those who had loved them became less fearful, less careful, more recklessly brave. After my sister died, my mother and father were no longer afraid of the consequences. They moved us away from the Karen village I understood as home into the depths of the borderlands between Burma and Thailand to become resistance fighters. We children, like all people who could die, had to struggle for our lives. They said, "No one will fight your fights for you." I knew what my mother and father were fighting for, a Karen state. I learned the history of my people from my mother, a woman with broad bones and eyes just like mine, deep and dark, tempered fire. She had been a teacher and she raised me like a student. She told me about life for the 135 ethnic minorities in Burma before the British came and what happened after. How the British set up a hierarchy in the country, and for once the ethnic minorities were seen as potentially powerful. She told me about 1948 when the British left and Burma became independent. She talked of how a military regime had taken over and set out to abolish the cultural centers and the traditional holds of the ethnic minorities. We, she instructed my brothers and sisters and me, were born to take part in one of the longest running civil wars in modern history. She had given me a Burmese name to ensure my survival should she and my father die and the protection of their arms be taken away. Ong Kwaso. But she made sure I knew it was not my name. I changed my name after I heard the story. I decided that I did not need the shield of an oppressor to survive. I questioned whether I even needed my mother and father's arms, for they were more interested in the national task than the work of letting us be children. I chose for myself a Karen name. I became Ka Ta. In our language, Ka means country, and Ta means new. I would be a new country unto myself. I was barely a man when I left my I was barely a man when I left my mother and father for the refugee camps in Thailand. I did not ask for their permission. It was 1994, and I had just graduated from high school, which was unaccredited but organized in the fashion of the old British powers. I did not know where my future would lead, neither did they. I had a suspicion I might spend my entire life in the jungle, living and dying for a place that could never exist in a country the size of Burma. I left on the grounds of politics and practicality. In a refugee camp in Mae Sot, a district in western Thailand near the border, close to a village full of Burmese migrants and refugees, I enrolled in a medical training program. There I met the first woman who was not like my mother, and I fell in love with her for all the reasons I loved my mother. This woman stood out to me not because she was the most beautiful woman, but because she was the most fun. She was not part of a big history she could not forget. She was just trying to become educated so she could help herself. That singular focus drew me. Her wanting to be independent and live spoke to me. I was far from the adults in my life, so there was no formal marriage. We agreed to a loving union. I was too young and unconcerned with what that might mean beyond having a casual bed mate and a conversational partner. In Mae Sot district, surrounded by the lush jungles close to a waterfall, I took my first step as a man. In my union with a woman who decided to dedicate her life to me, we had 3 children together. 3 stateless children, citizens of no country, recognized by no nation. My beautiful baby boys were born with dark black hair, skin the color of the earth. Their maternal grandfather, an old man who, like his daughter, belonged to the world as we knew it, not some imaginary place of freedom, gave my sons the gift of poetry. Karen names calling on their worth. La Kaka was the first. His name meant that he was worthy of a country. La La Hoka was the second. His name meant that he was worthy of the earth. La La Mu was the third. His name meant he was worthy of the universe. I lived like a sun, and they revolved around me like planets, the women and children of the stratosphere. I wanted to shine brightly for my growing family. While I had never been a star pupil, I had been mothered by a teacher who had taught me how to learn. There was an opportunity for Karen refugees to leave the camp for Chiang Mai, the second biggest city in Thailand, in a program funded by a rich American named George Soros, a man who wanted to fight the politics of the world through the education of its people. It was an opportunity to learn English, the language in which much of the world functioned. Like before, I did not ask for permission. I applied. The first time I was rejected, so it didn't matter. The second time I was accepted, and it would matter, but I did not know it at the time. Chiang Mai was a life-changing opportunity for me. I took a plane for the first time. I saw the world from the sky. I knew that one did not need wings to fly. My heart hammered in my chest, and then I looked down at the earth. My family had disappeared entirely beneath a forest of green trees, the rise and the fall of mountains, the valleys of rice fields. I was enrolled in the Intensive College Foundation course. In 1 year, I was able to take my GED on the internet and graduate from an accredited institution in Maine. In that year, I could not return to visit my family because I was in Thailand illegally. Refugees are not allowed to attend high schools. In that year, I met teachers from America, Great Britain, and Canada. The world opened up before me, and it offered so much more than anything I had known. In its bigness, I did not miss my family and the life I had left behind, which I began to feel was no life at all. After my graduation, I applied for a full scholarship to go to college through the Soros Foundation. I did so without second thought. I applied to Mahidol University and Bangkok University. I was accepted into Bangkok. I could not wait to adventure farther away from the place where my family waited. The $4,000 scholarship I had been awarded provided for everything: tuition, living expenses, and books. In the 4 years of my college education, I lived what I knew then and now as the best time of my life. I explored everything. I grew and believed that I would grow with no end in sight. I lived as if I could die at any moment. I lived desperate for joy. There was no nation I was out to build. I was only building myself. I flung myself at the expanse of Bangkok. In that hot city among the asphalt and the concrete, I burned like a fire rich with oxygen. My English raced ahead of me, and I ran with it from one street to the next. I gained the respect of the Thai people around me and pushed against the stereotypes international people had of the Quran as simplistic. I liked sophisticated things. The taste of cold soda on my tongue was nothing like the bubbles of champagne slipping down my throat. The bitter greens of old were nothing compared to the sizzling meats available on the street corners, and better yet, in the sit-down restaurants in every stretch of the city. The sweat dripped off my skin like the hands that had held me as a child, and the hands of my wife and children. I graduated with a degree in communication arts. I knew that I would not return to the confines of any camp. I would not leave the streets of joy for the exhausted roads of poverty. I knew I could find a job and lose myself in the city. Soros had not considered the draw of freedom for people who'd never known it. They had tied us tightly into groups and assumed we would return to the people with whom we were identified. Their assumptions were wrong. And so I'm going to skip a little bit ahead. Ka ends up working for the International Organization for Migration as an interpreter. And there I met an American woman named Jill. She worked on a team sent to interview refugees for resettlement. Jill was tall and her skin was smooth and pale. Her eyes were large and brown and smart, unclouded by cynicism and unfazed by hardship. They were empathetic and kind. They were so unlike my own. Beyond these things, Jill was well fed, well educated, and well loved. She was comfortable in the world like a rock at the bottom of the river, feeling the movement from above, but steady and strong. Most intriguing, she was interested in me, and I found her refreshingly interesting. Jill was drawn to me as I was drawn to her, perhaps because I was everything she was not. We became friends, knowing we could be something more. Jill left Thailand after her professional responsibilities were through. We'd only known each other for 2 months' time. Over email, on the phone, through the spread of 4 years, Jill and I talked of our days. For the first time in my life, I could laugh with someone about the hard things because the threat of them felt far away. Somehow, with Jill, the world was not a place of struggle. Each day, our bond grew stronger and stronger. I was not surprised when the time came and Jill asked, her voice soft and her words low, weighted by all the reasons why ours was a risky match, if she could petition for me to come to America on a fiancé visa. I was scared. Jill knew about my children and the woman waiting for me. Jill knew there had been no formal marriage between us. Jill knew about my longing for security in my rebellious heart. And she still wanted to be with me. This time, I would not be leaving behind a bad situation, which was my justification for everything I had done. This time, I would be leaving good circumstances for a reality where I would have to start anew in the arms of one person who would have more power over me than anyone ever had. I hesitated. But the thing about life is this: when we are unsure, the universe isn't. In October 2010, Jill successfully completed the paperwork. I had been interviewed twice. I was approved to leave for America to reunite with Jill in Washington, D.C. I'd been gone for so long, I knew goodbye was not necessary. Like my sister, I would leave with no goodbyes. I would be dead to them. The consequences of my leaving would be ours to bear, but we would all survive in the end, perhaps be made better by it. At Suvarnabhumi Airport, I looked at the giant airplane that was to take me across the world. The chatter of soft Thai voices faded. I remember the plane ride I'd taken from the Mae Sot district to Chiang Mai, the wonder and the magic of that moment, the feeling that my whole world was going to change for the better. Now, there was no feeling like that inside of me. My palms were sweaty. I wondered if I would ever find a good job when my only usable skill was English, and I was going to a country full of English speakers. I did not cry as I got on the plane. I trusted Jill too much for that. Jill, whom I had spent 4 years getting to know, more time via the internet than I had ever spent with my first love or my children or anyone else, including my mother and my father, my brothers and sisters. Jill and I had done nothing but communicate again and again. On the flight from Bangkok, Thailand to Washington, D.C., I faced ahead and refused to look behind me at the old man. I could hear coughing every few minutes, or the old woman with a quivering voice who asked if he was all right, or the lie that he told her each time she asked, "I'm just fine." Then I'll skip ahead. So Call comes to America. He marries Jill, and he finds out that she's pregnant. So this is from the end of the selection. Jill was pregnant. She told me this in DC. It was one of the reasons for the move to Minnesota. I needed a sense of community. Jill knew there were Burmese refugees here. Her family was here. She'd grown up here. She wanted to raise her children close to family. My eyes had misted at the thought of a baby born to a country and a woman with the power and the ability to raise her, to become someone important, someone with citizenship. I knew I would have to learn how to be a father. This realization dried my eyes. As I walked into the big building with the wintry day, into the heated warmth, I saw myself reflected in one of its large windows. I knew what the world saw when it looked at me, a short man in a fine jacket going to work in a nice building, a man who has traveled far away from the place where his story began. I felt what the world would never see, a child seeking a way into the future, and an adult looking for ways to return to the past, willing to forgo everything for the experience of a simple life in a village, chickens pecking in the earth, tall trees with canopies thick enough to keep me dry from the rains. And that is one story from somewhere in the unknown world. One of the refugees here in Minnesota, an incredible human being, no regrets, no apologies, just the hard truth of a hard life filled with many decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to open up the floor, if you will, to anyone who might have a question for Jarrett or Kyle, and you can chime in if you're able, or raise your hand and we'll try and spot you, or put it on the chat.
I always say to my students, you can ask me anything you want. I reserve the right to answer it any way I want.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. Kyle, can you tell me more about your process with gathering these stories? And I can imagine you had an embarrassment of riches of the stories and how they came together as a complete entity.
That's a wonderful question, Mary Jo. So from when I wrote my first book, The Late Homecomer, I was only 22 years old. It came out when I was 28. So many people had no idea who the Hmong were. They had no idea that when America was fighting the Vietnam War, they were waging the secret war in Laos, and that for every Hmong person in America, 2 others died so we could be here. What I had written essentially was a correction to the history books of America. And when I started going on talks to make the story real, everywhere I went across this country, there would be refugees, and they would ask, "Can you tell my story?" But I was only 28 at the time, and I didn't, I understood the problems with representation coming from a marginalized background myself. And so I said, perhaps one day, perhaps one day. In 2016, my second memoir had just come out, The Song Poet. And one of my beloved uncles pulled me aside and he asked, "Can you please write my story down?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because the world does not know that nobody, even good men, leave wars innocent." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he told me this incredible story about how on the night of the crossing of the Mekong River, there were 2 sisters that approached him and his wife and their 5 children. They had a tiny raft, but this girl, she was about 6 or 7, she carried her sister on her back, 3 or 4. Their parents, their grandparents had died, had been killed in the jungles. All she had in her hand was this pot of rice with a little bit of rice in it. And she came to him and she said, "I will give you everything I own, everything in this pot. All you have to do is take my sister with you. You don't have to take me, just take her." My uncle said there was a full night, the moon of the crossing, and he could see them. Big round eyes and thin gaunt faces. Uncle said, "No, I can't, the raft is too small." And the girl went on her knees, holding the pot high, and begged, "Auntie." And she had no answers. But Uncle decided then that he would take his family across and he would return for them. And so he told them that's exactly what he would do. He put his children in the raft and his wife. There was no room for himself, so he swam alongside it. And they crossed. At the midway point, he heard guns and he looked back. He could see that the girl was still on her knees. But he also knew then that there would be no returning. Uncle was becoming an old man. He said that he knew it. Every night in his sleep, he could see it. He could see their eyes waiting for him at that river. He wishes when he meets them again to tell him that he was sorry that he had not been the man they were waiting for, that he had condemned them to die on his survival, his charge for life. And he wanted me to write this story down. And so I did. I wrote it down and I didn't know quite what to do with it. So I sent it to my editor at Metropolitan Books. Reva Hockerman said, "Kalia, this is so beautiful and powerful. Can you do more like it?" Can I do more like it? It was 2016. Donald J. Trump had just been elected. All across the country, there were conversations about nativism, and there was a refusal to respond to the needs of refugees internationally. And so all of a sudden, Mary Jo, I found myself in a place where there was more reasons for me to write than not. You know, every reason I could come up with not to write the book was because I was afraid. I was afraid that I wasn't good enough. I was afraid that I wasn't strong enough to carry the stories around me, that all I could do was to carry the stories inside. And so I decided I would put a book together about all of the things that we don't know about each other, even when we share the same cities, even when we share the same state, even when we share the same country. But I knew at the beginning that I would only ask for 14 or 15 different stories because as a refugee myself, I've been party to too many examples where scholars and journalists have entered into communities where they've asked for stories and the people have given them. And then because of a switch of an angle or a better case study, nothing was ever produced. I promised myself that every single person who spoke to me, that I would write their stories down to the best of my abilities. It would not be a mirror that I was holding up. I would create a portrait of who I saw before me. And so that's exactly what I did. I did 15 different refugee interviews and I wrote their stories down in this collection. They're incredible. They're from around the world, from wars of the last 50 years. And I hope above and beyond anything, beyond the critical response and the awards, that these stories are of use to the individuals themselves and then their families and their communities. Because I understand that part of the work of this book is that it is an archive of stories, undocumented, but incredibly worthy of a place on our shelves in our lives. Did I respond to your question? There's so many different angles to go about it.
Oh yes, you did beautifully, and I am just really struck by you using the word fear and powering through that, and a vision for it. I'd like to send a question Jarrett's way from the chat, from Robert O'Neill. What are your thoughts on the current state of queer stories in comics, and what do you hope to add to that tradition? And two, what's the inspiration for the Watson pig?
So for the first part, there are far more queer stories happening in comics these days than ever before, which is great. You know, representation is very important. And you know, for a lot of years, like a lot of queer stories would be told in just kind of like indie comics or even just like super tiny press, like self-published, like very small audience kind of way. And now, you know, you see Marvel and DC introducing queer characters. You know, that's kind of like exploding onto the mainstream now, which is fantastic. Like, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't, you know, I read comic books and there were no, for me, no queer superheroes and no Latin American superheroes either. And now like as an adult, I'm seeing both, and it's fantastic. I hope to just keep adding to that. You know, adding my own voice to the conversation. I am working on a memoir that talks about my story of struggling with my identity as a queer man. And that will also be a graphic novel, probably coming out in the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean, I just want to help elevate other queer voices in comics. So that's something that I also intend to do, whether it's the people I work with or, you know, doing chats like these at conventions and talking to, I mean, I've in the before times, I would do lots of conventions and I've done lots of panels where, you know, like young queer kids come up and ask about breaking into comics and stuff. And it's like, it's important to to be there for those kids and like help them express themselves and feel comfortable in their own skin. So that's my goal with telling the stories that I tell in comics. And for the second part, the inspiration for Watson the Pig, my partner Stuart and I have a massive collection of plush pigs, and one of them is named Watson. And so when I decided that I wanted to have a pig in this story, I named him after Watson.
Will Watson get residuals or royalties when you go to press?
No.
I have another question for both of you, please, from Vanessa to both Jarrett and Kyle. Who are some of the writers, artists, storytellers that inform or inspire your work?
Should I go, or Kyle, do you
Sure,
want to go?
go ahead.
So one of my favorite writers is Haruki Murakami. He does a lot of, he does a great job of blending real life stories and slice of life types of stories with an element of supernatural. And I've always really enjoyed that. And his books are quite a bit more serious than, say, something like Chef's Kiss, but even in Chef's Kiss, there's a little bit of his influence because there's a pig that's obviously like semi-sentient. As you read the story, you'll see. And it's just like sort of absurd, but in a way it kind of fits. And I feel that way with a lot of the supernatural and kind of absurd elements that he puts in his books. At first, you're kind of taken aback and you want to take a deeper look, and next thing you know, you're just kind of like, no, this is just how the world is, and that's fine. For comics, Rick Remender is probably my favorite comic author. He's the writer of Deadly Class. He's worked for Marvel a ton, and he's a huge influence on me. He writes a lot of kind of tragic stories that deal with abusive father figures and stuff like that, and that resonates with me a lot. So Rick is actually one of the first people that encouraged me to write comics. I wrote a letter in that he published in one of his issues, kind of explaining why that story resonated with me, and I went on and on and on, and he published it anyway. It took up an entire page of his letter column, and he said, "It sounds like you should start scripting a comic book," and that's actually why I started working on my memoir.
Very cool.
So I was born in a refugee camp, in Bandinai refugee camp. And where I was born, children couldn't go to school unless they could touch their ears like this. And although I turned 6 in the camp, the schools were overcrowded, so there was no room for me. There were about 40, 50,000 of us waiting in this place, about less than a square mile in radius, if you can begin to picture. Where we waited, where we got food 3 days a week, because Thailand was practicing a humane deterrence policy. They did not want more refugees flooding into their country. In this place where I was born, little girls like me were sometimes traded for bottles of fish sauce. But my father, he would take me on top of his shoulders, and we would walk around the camp, and he would tell me, "You're not a child of poverty or war or despair. You're hope being born, the captain to a more beautiful future." And I believed him. I believed him for many reasons, among them the simple fact that he told incredible stories. My father is a beautiful song poet in the Hmong tradition. You know, in his mouth, bitter words become soft and sweet. My elders, because there are no books, they would do this. They would open up their arms and they tell me, every piece of hair, this is a tree. They'd say, these knuckles you see, these are the mountains. And the veins running blue, this is the river running far and fast. And on the stretch of their arms, elaborate stories rise up into the world. That was my first real love of story. I think my still I mean, the heart of me, that is my greatest inspiration for the work that I do, to create a story out of nowhere, to bring all of history into words, to make something huge, small for one person. These things are elemental to the way I navigate the world of story. When I learned how to read when we came to America, I remember ninth grade English reading Louise Erdrich for the first time, reading Love Medicine. In there, she has a scene where a young girl weeps into a bucket, wipes a church down, and the whole church cries with her. And I thought, I know every single unit there, but how come combined they exploded meaning? What did she do? How did she do what she do? And so Louise becomes for me this incredible model of how to do literature well, how to do it with grace, how to do it in such a way that you can really elevate and change the world's perspective of a people. And thankfully, because Louise is also a Minnesotan author, we've had several opportunities to meet. When my first book came out and it was a finalist of the Minnesota Book Award, one of my sister's professors forced me to meet my idol. I was shaking there. I was a fellow finalist, but didn't have enough guts. And I went up to Louise's table and I said, "You are my favorite writer in the world." My face was so red. Louise said, "Thank you." And that was it. But after I won in my category, as I was walking out of the hall, I heard somebody calling my name, "Kalia, Kalia." I turned and Louise Erdrich was running toward me. And I stood there and she wrapped her arms around me. And I thought, my God, this is real. Well, many years later, my second book comes out and it's a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. And Louise is also a finalist. And we're in New York. And I'm like, she should sit by the aisle because she's going to win. You know, and so Louise is sitting by the aisle, her daughter, and then I'm sitting there, and my husband's beside me. On the evening of the announcements, they announced my category, but they didn't announce my name. And somebody's hands came out and wrapped themselves around mine super tight, so I hold onto it. And I think this is my husband's hand. But then I looked down, and the whole time I was squeezing Louise Erdrich's hand. So it's incredible, people, the idols that give us inspiration. Sometimes in life, they become true, and they're as heroic as they ever were. And so I'd say Louise Erdrich. In terms of the written form, in terms of the spoken form, all of the elders in my family. My uncle says to me, a story is like a stop sign on the road of life. Its purpose is to make you pause, look both sides, check the trajectory of the horizon before you continue.
I want Louise Erdrich to hold my hand someday. I don't care what it's for. If it's me getting an award, I don't care. She's fantastic. I have one more question, maybe more, if we have a few minutes, Abby, is that good? Josie, I see Josie raising her hand. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say to both of you, I so appreciate your work. Jarrett, it's just very important what you're doing, and I like that humor and the way you're doing it. It reaches a lot of people when a person uses humor. And and Cal, I'm not, excuse me if I'm saying your name wrong, but you're such a very, very beautiful writer. And I'm ADHD, and sometimes it's hard for me to pay attention, but I just was, well, actually both of yours, I was drawn in completely. And just so poetic and just, anyway, bravo. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that. Okay.
Thank you, Josie. I appreciate that. Abby, do we have time for maybe one more?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Let's see. I had it here. Katie is asking, Kyle, what was your selection process for choosing the people whose stories you wrote?
For me, part of the personal connection is this community piece. I wanted really to open the doors into neighbors, and so people I knew already, people whose lives were moving, right alongside with mine. Sia Story. Sia is the pediatrician. She was the secretary at our pediatrician's office. She's from Liberia, And so that's how I met her, and that's how her story entered into the book. Call, his children and mine go to the same school. Afghani, who is this incredible young man from Afghanistan, he drives. He's an office worker by day and a Lyft driver by night. And we met at a coffee shop 2 blocks away from the children's school when I was there writing. These are people in my life. Uncle Story is in here. Mr. Michael, who is incredible as well, from Eritrea. His daughters and I went to college together. And so this is really a communal and for me, a very intimate journey. It begins, the book begins with other people's children, and it ends with a letter to my own children, because oftentimes that's how we see each other. We know there are refugees in these cities. We know that they've survived incredible things, but beyond the act of survival, what else? What else is there? And so that for me was an important part of the project. So people who agreed to talk to me, the first 15 essentially. Sigmuda Bongsai is an incredible playwright. Her story is also in here because I think Sigmuda was interested in what would happen to her story in my hands. And so A Burial and a Birth is a story about her mother's death, but also then the birth of her child. So these are the stories around me.
Thank you. Thank you. I just really appreciate it. It's so great to have you guys, and I really appreciate the thoughtful answers and the contributions and questions from everybody. I think that's it. Abby, what do you think?
Yes, thank you both so much, and thank you, Mary Jo. I think this was absolutely fantastic. And I will have a audio recording of this up on the website, hopefully sometime this next week if it lets me. We'll see. And so if you guys have any questions or anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just point out that our next reading series is on April 8th at 7:30, and we're really excited for that one as well. And again, thank you so much, Jarrett and Cal, for coming tonight.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.